later on. Magic in the Morning, we have our friend, your family members, your friend, Mike Barrett in the studios from Barrett Insurance Agency. Good morning, Mike.
I'm not related to everybody, Jeff, just a few people.
Right. Well, they're listening. I mean, we're related somewhere, right?
Somewhere along the way,
My brother from another mother. All right, so we talk good policies here. We have fun with it because insurance, whether it's for your home, your car, your motorcycle, renter's insurance, it's pretty complex, and we try to break it down in layman terms. What are we going to talk about today?
Why is my friend's homeowner's insurance cheaper than mine?
That's what we're talking.
Well, my friend's isn't cheaper than mine. I make sure they pay more than me.
Well, no, that's interesting because people talk about it. I just had my insurance went up X number of dollars. Tell us more.
Yeah. So, and it's always, it's a conversation that's always on the surface. It's always on the surface. So you never get deep like what we get into when we're doing these dialogues on Tuesday mornings. You're not talking about the nuts and bolts of why. You're just talking about the overall, here's what I'm paying. So why is your uncle or your friend or your sister paying less for their insurance than you are? Well, think about the factors that go into rating a homeowner's insurance policy. So drive through St. Johnsbury, drive through Lindenville. What do you see that's little and red all over the place?
Little and red would be a fire hydrant.
Yeah, like my son would say, I spy with my little eye something red. So you have fire hydrant protection within the village limits of both communities, and as well as many others, Littleton and a couple of other towns as well. And even some of the outlying areas. I could tell you for certain in Waterford, and I know other towns as well, have installed dry hydrants with grant money that are able to feed water supply to fire departments as well. So what do those do? Those play a role in not only what you pay for insurance, but the acceptability of certain companies. So there are certain companies that say, look, we want to write people who are within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant and to be expected within 5 miles of a fire department. So if you're within 5 miles of a fire department, within 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant, you're in good standing. You have good fire protection, and there's a protection class code system that we use. It's put out by ISO, the Insurance Services Office, that it rates everybody. So St. Johnsbury, if you're within 1,000 feet, within 5 miles, you're a protection class 4.
And I'm going to guess that the 4 number is better than a 1.
No, the 4 number is better than a 10.
Okay.
All right, because it's the higher the number, the higher the multiplier, the more the cost. So in Lindenville, I believe if you're within 1,000 feet, within 5 miles, it's either a 6 or a 7. And I'm not totally sure why it's higher than St. Johnsbury. I'm sure it has everything to do with the fact that St. Johnsbury is a full-time operating fire department.
And ours is volunteer. And yeah.
So then you get to people like me. I'm in Waterford. You're in Newark.
Yeah.
So we're out in the outlying areas. So our hope is that we're within 5 miles of a fire department. I know I am. I'm not sure if you are, but
nope, not.
I'm within 5 miles of a fire department. So therefore, I become a protection class code 9.
I will say, Newark Fire Department is pretty darn fast.
Yes, they are.
Getting where they got to go. So I just got to say that.
But there are companies out there like you. If you're over 5 miles from a fire department, and of course, at that point, it doesn't matter if you're under 1,000 feet from a fire hydrant or over, but I suspect you're over, you're what we call a protection class code 10. There are insurance companies that do not want to write that. Well, because obviously. It's not properly protected. So that's just the first level factor of difference of cost, is what your fire protection is, what your proximity to fire protection is. So that can play a big role. And then you look at the year of construction of your house. Is it a 1900s farmhouse that's had updates over the years, we hope, or is it a house that was built 5 years ago? There's a big difference in cost on those as well.
Prefab houses, like mobile homes, double wides, and all of that stuff, those obviously are contributing factors too?
Those actually go into completely different policies. So
okay.
A mobile home would be in a mobile home policy. And there are companies out there that write traditional homeowners that have mobile home offerings. And there are companies out there that's what they write. They write mobile homes. They like to write mobile homes. So that would be a completely different factor as well. Modular homes would fall into the stick-built style because it is a stick-built home, just built off-site. So there's just so many factors, deductibles, limits of coverage, perils. What kind of form do you have? Do you have policy form 1, 2, 3, or 5. I mean, there's a million factors there too.
You've got possessions, you've got, the valuables that are within the home and stuff like that. Because even though you and your best friend Richard at NSA Industries, right, you think you got everything the same. You both got the 60-inch TV, you both got a computer. There are still other things that are going to be of value. More value, less value, right?
Right. Things vary all the time. You may have jewelry scheduled on your policy. You may have a boat or a snowmobile or an ATV on your policy where Richard doesn't.
Or service line from last week.
Endorsements is a big thing. You may have expanded replacement costs, meaning if your house burns to the ground, the company will pay up to an additional percentage if necessary to rebuild with like kind of quality. Some companies are up to 20%, some up to 25%. Some will pay up to 50% more than what your limit of coverage is. So there's just so many variables that you will never be able to match up and find what's going on for them versus you unless you are sitting down with each other and have a working knowledge of these declarations pages that show the coverage where you can really hammer out the details. So.
Now, are more and more people nowadays, in modern days, are they asking more questions, paying more attention to what is covered? Because I'll be honest with you. All right, I got 50,000, 100,000. All right, that's good. I can afford it. Are more people taking the time?
I would say it's probably the same as it's always been. There are people who are very inquisitive and want to know the details, and we want to tell you the details. We always do. There are people out there that, as I'm going through, here's what's covered, here's what's contained in your policy. Some people will almost stop me and say, "Hey, I trust you." Which is the scariest thing you could ever tell me,
right? That
you trust me. I mean, of course, I'm glad that you do, and I'm definitely going to treat you right. But, there are people out there that don't know who they're insured with. Well, there are people out there that don't know how much insurance they have or what their deductible is.
As you've mentioned in your advertising campaign here on our stations, the worst time to find out that your coverage isn't adequate is when you need it the most. Not when you're sitting there signing the paperwork saying, all right, I'm good. You quoted me we'll just use a round number, $500, okay? Mm-hmm. Well, had it been $550, you'd have had that better coverage, right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's $50. Right, exactly. It's a $50 difference, but when it boils down to it, that $50 pays off.
Right. I mean, if you have a $300,000 liability limit on your policy, wouldn't you be shocked to find out that maybe for $12 more a year, you could have had $500,000?
Yep.
$200,000 more liability protection for yourself to protect your assets, as that's what's intended to do. $12 more a year to have that. I mean, it's incredible. So I always tell people, and from the onset, when we are reviewing or quoting for the first time, we try to do as many reviews as we can of our existing policyholders as well as every other agency. That's really what we try to do. But I always tell them, look, I'm gonna open up this can of worms. We're gonna talk all about it. There's no test at the end, unless you want there to be. Then I'll grade you on a curve. But there's no requirement or expectation for you to memorize everything. But it's important to kind of get that concept of what you're getting and what you're paying for in the onset.
Just real quick, as we're getting ready to wrap it up here, I want to go back where you said people trust you. That's it. Stop. Might not be a good idea to do that, because if you're going down through, something may come up. Oh, whoops, we didn't include that, or we included that, we don't need to anymore.
Right. Oh, really? I didn't know that if somebody came into my house and stole all of the jewelry in my house, that the most the insurance company will pay out is $1,500, which is a sublimit of coverage. That's another conversation for another day. But there's endorsements that can boost that to $5,000 or even higher. So it's about having that dialogue. It's about knowing what you have, knowing what your exposures are, understanding what your expectations are. You're not getting insurance just because you have to. Yes, you are. But don't get insurance just because you have to. Get insurance because it's going to be a function for your life.
It's right. And insurance that covers your life. Tell them how to get in touch with you at Barrett Insurance.
Yeah, 748-5224. Visit our office on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, or online at thebarrettagency.com. We're also on Facebook, Google, and YouTube as Barrett Insurance Agency.
All right. And here Tuesday mornings.
Absolutely.
Good policies. Hope you have a good Memorial Day, by the way.
You too.
Guys open Monday?
No.
All right. Just had to verify
I don't think so. I'll check with the boss.
All right. We're going to keep your morning moving on. Music coming up from Jack Rose on Met.